If you have ongoing exposure to controlling people, it's a virtual certainty that you're going to experience blurry boundaries, which is why I've created the extensive online course called This Is Me, Establishing Boundaries with the Controllers in Your Life. There's a link below that will give you all of the details, and I hope that you would find it therapeutic. Easily one of the most rewarding byproducts of my years as a therapist is I had the honor of getting to know people on a very deep level in ways that the average person out there isn't going to really know. Everybody has a past. Everybody has some sort of backstory, and people would come into my counseling office and they may have some current circumstances that are creating a great deal of difficulty and strain, but inevitably it can be tied to a history that may have set them up for some of the strains that they have, or may have an impact on the way that they manage their strains. And as a therapist, it would be my privilege to be able to say, well, why don't we look at whatever's going on in you currently and historically, and let's figure things out, because we can do that. And so when you get to know people on a deep level, you wind up learning all sorts of things that are part of a person's flaws and imperfections or influences that they wish could have been different. And like I say, what a wonderful honor it is for me to be able to be involved with people in knowing that about other individuals. Now, you don't have to be a therapist before you start learning things about a person's past. When you have people in your life, whether it's somebody that you know socially or at work, or certainly people inside your extended family, the people you live with, you're going to learn all sorts of things about who they are and what influences they've had. And over time, as you learn these things, it can create a sense of intimacy. When you have shared experiences with one another, or you have worked together on projects and events, or you reveal personal matters to one another, it can actually be the beginning of creating some very meaningful bonds. Now, enter the narcissist. The narcissist likes to learn about your past. They can actually show an interest in you sometimes, and they can maybe talk with you in a pseudo close kind of way about some of their experiences too. But over time, narcissists, when they learn things about you, about your vulnerabilities, or maybe some of the things that went wrong, they get tired of having to, treat you in a kind way or be empathetic. They become weary of thinking of you as an equal. You have difficulties. Well, I have them too. They have difficulty in letting you have the spotlight. In other words, they don't want to spend that much time learning and knowing about you. They're not very patient. They're not very tolerant. So maybe over a short period of time, they can show an interest in your past, but eventually they become tired of all of the effort that goes into the making of sustaining a long-term, close, intimate relationship, and they're going to eventually start discarding you. They're going to start diminishing you. Now, like I say, in healthy relationships, you can have the notion that says, I really like knowing you, and I like being known. Let's figure out who you are, let's figure out who I am, and let's make this work in a meaningful way. With narcissists, though, they think, I really like having the goods on you. And I think that over the long haul, this is going to serve me well. Now, you're going to find over time, as you get to know that narcissist and they begin learning all sorts of things about you from your history, that they'll eventually start taking attitudes that make you think, oh boy, was this a mistake? For example, narcissists can more or less, they may just say point blank, but they'll imply, other people don't know you the way I do. And the implication is, as I learn some of your pluses and minuses, I could hurt your reputation. I have power over you now that I know some of the negatives about you. Or over time, as they begin learning about you or experiencing some of your pluses and minuses, they may think, you keep proving to me and you keep talking to me about how messed up you really are. Oh, I had no idea. And sure enough, every one of us has something in our history that didn't go well. But instead of them looking at it from a more upbeat way of life, like, hey, way to go, you overcame a lot, it's like, no, you're messed up. Good to know. I can use that. Or then they may have this notion as they learn about your history where they'll say or think something to the effect of, as far as I'm concerned, you're just a phony. You try to look nice on the exterior, but you're not. I know you're a liar. You're just somebody who you're more messed up than everybody thinks, and so they'll smear you, just more or less implying you have to be perfect in order for people to like you. And since I found out your imperfections, what that means is you're just a not genuine kind of person. In addition, then, as they learn some of your negatives from your past, they may start thinking and saying things like, I'm beginning to realize you're not a very trustworthy person. Now, what they're doing, of course, is they're projecting their own lack of trustworthiness onto you. That they'll look at you and they'll say, well, you seem to be looking good right now, but look at some of the things in your past. And knowing that they don't have a real good track record of being trustworthy, instead of saying, well, I need to deal with that, they'll just look at you and say, well, this must mean you're an untrustworthy person. Classic projection, although they would never see that or admit it to save their life. Then eventually, as you show that you are a mixed bag, then they'll more or less conclude, I don't think you're going to be of much use to me. I need people who are ideal, and obviously you're not ideal, or you're somebody that they may have to pause and go and take care of some things and I just don't have to mess with that. And then they'll start going into the shame game with you. As they learn some of the things about who you are and how things don't always play out in the ideal way, they'll just say something like, there's so many things about you that this is bad. This is really bad. I mean, let's say you have had a history of having done some things wrong, or you've had some negative influences in your family, or some plans that you wanted to have fallen through. They take this binary all or nothing kind of approach, and it's like, well, since everything wasn't ideal, that must mean you must be terrible. And then they go straight into the shame game. And they have no room for nuance. They have no room for gray in your life. And basically they'll say, everything that's good about you now is just tainted. And of course, again, you can see there's so much projection going on there with them. Of course, they're not coming to terms with that. Now, why do narcissists do this? As they learn about you and your backstory and the pluses and minuses, why do they take this jaded approach? Well, let's keep in mind, first and foremost, these are individuals who want to build themselves up at someone else's expense. That's what they do. They're constantly looking for proof that they are indeed superior. So when you share thinking, well, I'm just going to express my humanity just as I would hope you would do yours in reverse, when you share, they're thinking, okay, I'm keeping score, and I've got this, and this now that I can use against you. That proves that I'm better than you. But ultimately, you can then see that their trashing of you and your history is little more than their own big, huge defense mechanism. You've heard the old saying, the best defense is a good offense. The more they can smear you and make you just feel like you're on your heels trying to justify how it's okay for you to be you, that keeps the focus off of them. And so they like that. Simply put, we can say that narcissists have a very low conception of closeness or tenderness or just sustaining well-being. They don't know how to do that. Vulnerability scares them. They like for you to be vulnerable in the sense that they get to gather up facts about you that may eventually prove to their benefit. But ultimately, when they take this kind of approach that we're describing here today, it's their way of saying, I don't know how to do vulnerability. I don't know how to do closeness. I don't know how to do openness. That scares me to death. They have their own embedded insecurity that determines who they're going to be, and they're not able to sustain real, authentic, and genuine kind of relationships. Underneath the surface, they have lots of anger and agitation that's just right there. It's just one false move away from them coming out with all of that. And so that becomes their go-to strategy, Whereas in healthy relationships, the go-to strategy is if we have some difficulty, if we just learn some things, it's like, let's slow down and let's learn and let's tune into one another. They don't do that. Narcissists themselves are not trustworthy. They're keepers of secrets. They're liars. And so when they find out some of the things in your background, rather than saying, well, you have some things about yourself that you don't always tell everybody, so do I. No, they can't do that. But like I say, they just, they keep the focus on you as a means of keeping the focus off themselves. Narcissists just simply don't know how to handle intimacy well. They don't know how to handle the honor of knowing things about you. And as a result, when they learn things about your history that are not ideal or perfect, they're thinking, this is an opportunity for me to devour you. It's pretty pitiful, isn't it? So why don't we close by saying this? I'm going to give you 3 different things to think about. One, when you see this pattern in them, building in them, and you realize that they are going to use your past against you, at that moment, the moment you begin seeing it, minimize greatly your self-revelations. 2, do not play into their shame games, because that's where they're leading to, because it's their way of elevating themselves. Their self-esteem, such as it is always at someone else's expense. That's not a good formula. Do not play into their shame games. And then 3, save your self-revelations and your sharing about personal things for people that really know what to do with it. That narcissistic individual with all their control and entitlement and lack of empathy is not the right person to reveal your history with. Know that and make your adjustments, maintain your boundaries accordingly. And I hope that videos such as this give you some good things to think about and good awarenesses as you're dealing with these individuals. I know that many of you have sent me so many nice comments about how you're trying to grow and get beyond this. This is why I do the videos, and if you've not already subscribed, I would encourage you to do so. Hit that like button too, and we're going to keep more videos coming to you because I want you to learn about this so that you can be the best version of you that you need to be. If you have a need for therapy, and I know many times when you're going through things like this, that would be something that would be quite beneficial. I'm so pleased that I'm sponsored by the people at BetterHelp.com. It's an online therapy service, and they have a whole team of licensed professional therapists. All you have to do is go beneath the video here and click, and it'll take you right into their website. In addition, I have my therapeutic courses, and these are very extensive. I have 3, and each one has multiple videos, teaching documents, and guided questions, ready, set, connect, about making good connection skills. This is me about establishing your boundaries, free to be, finding yourself despite the controllers. I have my webinars that I've produced, and now you can have access to them after they've been aired. And then in addition, we have our website, we have my podcast, lots of resources. I hope that you can grow and learn. Like I say, it's an honor when we allow other individuals to know who we are from our deep history. Narcissists are so immature that they take that as a club, and it's a pitiable way for them to deal with things, because it's like they're not exactly coming from a perfect history themselves, but that's what they do. Knowing this, I hope that you can make your adjustments, because you deserve to have a sense of steadiness in your life, and I hope that ultimately you can, as you put your boundaries up with them, I'm hoping you can find your place of peace.